let's move on now because, as I mentioned in my editorial, while Australia was, of course, right to demand an investigation and condemn the tragic deaths of 7 aid workers in Gaza, including an Australian woman, it cannot be forgotten that Hamas is the enemy here. Joining me now live is Joel Burnie of the Israel and Jewish Affairs Council. Joel, thanks for joining us. The deaths of the aid workers are appalling and should rightly be called out and investigated. This week, Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong ramped up their rhetoric towards Israel in response. Do you think that their commentary has been fair?
Thank you for having me on, Danica. Well, obviously, I can understand the frustration and the anger and concern from the initial response from the Australian government, both from the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister. The simple fact is that an awful mistake has occurred and a tragedy has been the outcome. And 7 aid workers, including an Australian, Zomi Frankcom, have lost their lives. This is a tragic situation where Israel took responsibility immediately, and we're awaiting in the next couple of hours the determination of the investigation, which I believe has been made available to the Australian ambassador in Tel Aviv, and the full report should be made public within the next couple of hours. So this is a tragic circumstance, but there's no doubt that over the past 24 hours or so, there has been an increase in the rhetoric from the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister. And my hope is that once the investigation findings are released and the details are released as to what exactly happened, then that requested transparency and accountability will be provided.
Penny Wong today walked back her comments saying that Hamas has no place in the future of governance of Gaza. Does that give you confidence that Australia won't alter or change its policy when it comes to this war and Israel's right to defend itself?
Well, I'm very hopeful, and that's been a consistent position from the Foreign Minister from the start. So I'm thankful that she was able to echo that position again this morning. Hamas does not have any future role in the governance of Gaza. They are a terror organization who not only committed a horrible crime and massacre of rape, pillage and murder on October 7, but are also keeping their own Palestinian population as hostages. So at the end of the day, I would certainly support and echo the government's current position on Hamas, that it has no future role in the enclave. The problem is, Danica, is that the 4 remaining battalions are holed up in Rafa, which, as you know and we've discussed previously, is a very densely populated area with a lot of civilians sheltering from the north of the enclave. So Israel is, there is a request from the international community, specifically for the Americans, to draw up plans as to how to provide safeguards for that population, or other alternatives to a mass operation that has been predicted. So I think that those things will be sorted out over the coming weeks. And even though the relationship between, say, the United States, Israel and its allies, including Australia, has been strained over this recent mistake that's happened over the past couple of days, I do have confidence that things will get back on track over the next couple of days and weeks.
Joe Biden has again pushed for a Gaza ceasefire in a call with Benjamin Netanyahu this morning and says that US support depends on protecting civilians. What do you make of his comments, and is Israel under increasing pressure from its international allies?
So I think that the answer to that question is yes, but I think that Israel is responding positively to that pressure. So just over the last couple of hours, there's been an announcement that Israel is going to allow more aid in through 2 locations. Firstly, they're going to activate the Ashdod port to allow aid to go into the north of Gaza. But also, very importantly, they're going to open up the Erez crossing, which is in the north of the Gaza Strip. Now, I've been to the Erez crossing. It's usually a passenger terminal that allowed the tens of thousands of Gazans to come in and work into Israel every day, but it can facilitate aid deliveries. The issue is, Danica, and it's important for your viewers to understand, that Erez crossing was partially, if not quite badly, destroyed in the initial attack on October 7, and a number of Israelis lost their lives at that place. So whilst the international community can place pressure on Israel to do certain things, I think that the context of doing things, specifically with opening up Erez crossing, which was a scene of a horrific attack on October 7, there is some reluctance initially to do that, but Israel is doing that now. So that will hopefully allow far more aid to go in. In terms of Rafa, though, I think that there's increased communication between the Israelis and the Americans, and I do hope that there will be some type of resolution or agreement to the Rafa situation shortly.
Okay, well, we will look out for that. Joel Burnie, always good to speak with you. Thanks for joining us this evening.